I'll go ahead and start recording. So I'm recording through OBS now instead. I don't know what was up with Zoom not recording. My internet is running a little slow here, so it may have something to do with that. Oh, one second. Let me try some. Hey, Katie, would you check to see if Harmony's working for you?
I checked yesterday and it's not.
It wasn't yesterday?
No, I can check again.
Yeah, check again because it's working for me, and I don't know if it's my account or my computer. Okay. So, because he was supposed to have fixed the thing that was causing the issues. So, okay. So let me check in the folder here. So we got.
It's still locked.
Still not
It says
working.
license activation.
Okay. I may try logging into one of those computers there and see if it's just working on the instructor machine.
It would make sense if it were, honestly.
Yeah, he was supposed to. I think he was going to unlock all these machines, but okay. So I'll go ahead and share screen. Okay, so y'all are able to see this. So I am going to assume that people are still uploading some stuff in here. Okay, yeah. So I'm not gonna. There we go. I was kind of getting these downloaded. I'm sorry. Okay. So before we jump into these and start looking, my plan today is to look at what you have, but again, kind of quick overviews. More than anything, I'm just checking in with y'all once a week because we're kind of down to the wire now, right? We are here, which means you should probably be starting rendering sometime here in the next few days, right? I'm going to try to use what time we have in class pretty efficiently in terms of what we cover. I was going to continue going in a little bit more in detail, maybe do some more graph editor work and stuff like that. But I think instead what I want to cover is really the three main things that I think are necessary, which is today I'm going to show you how to use Resolve, how to install Resolve and just do some basic using Resolve. And it's really not that much different than Premiere. But that way you can have that to be doing some editing in. Next class period, we'll talk a little bit more about how to get the effects in there and how to start getting it set up to polish or to render. So let's see how many people we have in class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 people in class. We have 6 people who've turned something in. I know Katie's in the process of uploading hers. Anybody else? Is everybody else still just uploading stuff, or are those people who are not turning in something for this one?
Why did you do that?
Let's see if my chat is. You can turn it in Wednesday, but I can't count it for Wednesday.
Hey, Greg.
So I'll be happy to give you feedback on that. Yes.
This is what the render for what the shots looks like, and that is not at all what I said to. The play blast, when it was play blasting and like the little log thing, was exactly as it was. And then when it gave me the export, it gave me this.
Yeah, that's showing the front camera. Is that the one you?
I can just redo it.
Yeah, try maximizing the view that you were play blasting. Seeing it, it's weird.
So this is the shot that I sent to. If I play blasted, it will do that. But
Yeah, try hitting the space bar on to. Oh, sorry. Is it a play blast or is it a render?
I'm just play blasting it.
Yeah, try play blasting like that and see if it'll give you the right thing this time.
Sorry, this should have been done a while ago.
No. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, try if you can see if you can get something in. I don't, and even if it's like, a few frames from stuff. So I have to say, I'm a little, like, let's watch through these. I'm less worried about the people that are here and more worried about the fact that there are so many people not here. Michaela's here now. Okay, cool.
It's still doing that. I don't know what's wrong with it.
So it's just play blasting or wrong?
Yeah, it's just not doing it. It's still. One more time, maybe?
Can you double click on the videos?
Oh, this is why.
Okay.
Almost done. It's been a long day.
Oh, sure.
already.
Okay, so let's watch through these and then we'll talk. So yeah, we got, let's see, one. Michael's here. So 1, 2, 3.
Okay, now it works.
Okay, I'll rename your Savannah. Is it this one? Gotcha. Okay, and Mikhail, I'll go ahead and pull yours down too. All right, cool. So we're getting some files. So this is, I guess, this is me like kind of preaching to the choir because you all are here. There's a lot of people who are not, and if you are in contact with those people, I've sent emails to some people who have missed a lot this semester. I'm not sure if they're dropping the class or what's going on, but I will try to catch up with them as well. So, yeah.
Do you want it on OneDrive or on the server?
Oh, the link through the joy. So again, you are here. That's cool. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for getting something turned in. I know some of you is probably less finished than you may want. Really, what I'm wanting to see today is like, are we? I don't know. Let's watch and then talk about it. So what I'm going to do is set this up like this. So I can have this off to the side, and then let's just go ahead and click through them here. So Chris, I know I read yours already. So let's do Kate's next.
One should be there now.
All right, cool. Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely, I still don't have everything kind of put together exactly right. But I did get another shot at it.
Yeah, I like the other shot. I think the sort of my first instinct is it still has a reasonable amount to go in terms of polishing of the animation. So I think that you're probably gonna have to kind of double down on that this week.
Yeah.
And try to get that sort of polished in. Like mainly it's it's like graph editor work, and I feel like there's a little bit of timing work needs to happen on this shot here. From like the beginning, the first half is good. The second half feels like it kind of shoots off to the end here in like 3 frames, and I'm sort of stretching that out to feel appropriately timed. So is it? Oh, this one goes over the cliff. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of rolling off. I don't know if I should, like, I'm still kind of deciding also on the camera whether I needed to, like, sort of pan out some more so you can really kind of see the car falling down to. Well, there's not much of a ravine there, so that's why the camera is kind of the way it is right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like I totally agree. It's like I'm not anywhere near. It's like animation still needs like many more passes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be the thing. And like little stuff like this shot, like maybe closer to done than you'd think, but it's still stuff to make it like to kind of add that extra finesse or that polish. Like the way the camera rotates inside of there feels very like it locks to one corner or the other, like it snaps.
Right.
I realize I don't know if my camera is jumping for you all or not. It was for me. Oh, okay. Nathan is here. Cool. So Nathan, we are checking out everybody's progress submission. So if you want to go ahead and upload yours as well. Right here. So that. So how are you feeling in terms of being able to get it done by this time next week?
Well, I am hoping that even if it's not exactly perfect, it will look a lot better than this. I think I'm putting a lot of time and effort into it between now and then. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd like to see it kind of pull together in terms of the animation. I think the render should work smoothly. It just may be a little bit slow. Okay, yeah, cool. Let's check out some of the others. Dylan. I guess. Can y'all hear the sound on this one? Yeah, this is looking cool. So this is like, I think you're in a good spot here. Two very small details I think I would consider. So I think there are two spots I think you can plus this just a little bit. One of them is right here at the beginning. I like this wide open shot. I don't like, we don't see the cars come into frame about half a second there, right? And then we cut once they're getting about to this this point of the third, right? I think I would consider framing this a little differently. I don't necessarily know. It still feels like there's a lot of stuff going on out here that's still pulling my eye. Does that make sense? So like, oh, where did the video go?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
So like maybe adjust the camera a little bit, because I also think the thing that you are going to start to see is, let's see if I can draw on it when it's not full screen. Yeah, like right now your rule of thirds, like you're cutting right about the time they're getting to this third line, and that means there's all of this section out through here, which is showing us a lot about the environment. I think what's going to make this shot neat is the effect that's going to happen once you get the smoke in there, right? Because what you're going to see is like this empty terrain, and then these two dots that have this like this smoke trail going off behind them, right? And I think that's going to be very like a lot of interesting stuff up here in this one corner and not as much going on over here. And I think the more you could end this shot with them closer to like this part of the screen and this smoke trail, trickling back through this way, I think the more interesting the overall shot's going to feel. Now, whether you do that with like a slight camera pan back to them as they're approaching, or if you sort of reframe it a little bit to where they come into shot earlier and end up a little further across the screen by the time the shot's over with, or what. But to me, it's like just as I start to see them and start to realize what's happening, that's when we cut. And I think I would try to call them out a little earlier, if you could. The other thing I'm seeing is not bad, but I think you could amp up the impact just a little bit. I really love this like thing that the car does here, but then the moment that it like rockets away, the camera moves, and you kind of lose some of your thunder from that energy, right? So like as soon as the car sort of shoots forward, the camera pans over here, and now the most interesting part of the shot is happening right over here. I think it'd be nicer if it was happening right in here, right? I think what you could also do is sort of stick with this camera motion just a little longer. Like the pan across that you do here isn't as important anymore because you do a camera cut right there, right? And I think that you could almost stick with this and have the car start to, like when it kicks into gear, the car goes from being, this big to suddenly it's, much smaller, right? And maybe you get like a camera shake or something from that, like you pressed a nitrous button or something like that that sort of shook the whole thing, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it just feels like it feels more like it just needs a boom there or a punch there. And what we get is instead of that punch, we get this camera that kind of rockets sideways. I would almost rather see the camera sort of be knocked back just a little bit. And then I don't think you need to go over this way as much. The effect that you're getting there with the car doing this echo that it's doing, that might work better in this at the beginning of this shot. But because I think this is working much better now. You get that green car that's zooming past us in the foreground. And then this, which is working really well. I think the sound is working really well with it too. So yeah, they're just really subtle timing changes and framing changes. So is this video coming through okay? I keep seeing in my video sort of glitching out up here in the top corner.
I don't think the sound.
Oh, the sound didn't. Yeah, I may not have it shared with sound. Yeah, I probably didn't. There we go. So I'll play it one more time so everybody can hear it with sound because I think it looked really good. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. So I think you're getting pretty close to being ready to start rendering, so that's good.
Yeah, just put up a shot. I'm still going to change the shot. I'm going to put it up on the render form to see if it will work at least.
Yeah, let me know how that's going. I know Marty and Livingston have been kind of fighting with the render farm a little bit, but hopefully it'll work out.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
Check out Katie's.
I made some adjustments, like you said, but there's still some things I need to change. I don't know why I did the whole thing. It's not what I said it did. Well,
Cool.
okay, I'm sad now.
Oh, did it play blast too long on the second
Yeah.
shot? So where's it supposed to cut on shot 3?
When they get to the hill, it's supposed to cut. That one should have cut there, and then that one should not have started there and ended where it did.
Okay. Do you want to redo it and resubmit it, or do you want me to just kind of eyeball it?
If you want me to, I can.
No, I mean, I think it's working. So where does it cut on? So on this shot, I can see where it would cut. It would cut like right there, right? And then on this one, does it start here?
It starts when it's moving, so that it doesn't look like it hasn't stopped.
Gotcha.
And then it should stop a little ways back, about there. But yeah,
It feels like that. It feels like that shot may end up being like once it's all cut correctly. That shot end up may being a little short. You may want to extend that one a little bit. Like kind of keep them going a little bit longer before that. That way you can kind of get that like nose to nose like they're racing. And then I think where you're cutting to on this shot, it would feel like a better cut then, and then they kind of go over. And I think, of course, like try to take them on past the end of the hill so it doesn't, you don't really sort of see them settle to a stop. So let's see here. Yeah, I think my big notes, small things like, make sure the building's not floating as much.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's easy to sort of get into that. I think this shot could be a little bit more nudged over to this side of the screen, to screen left. That way we could see the other car sort of come out from behind the building a touch earlier. And then I think in this shot here, it still feels like it would be nice to be able to see this car up in the, like, sort of lower the whole camera a little bit where the two cars are higher in frame. I like I think it's a little sharp right now, but the way that, what it feels like is the first one pulls out, the second one sort of gets out of its parking spot and then sort of like punches it and goes after them. And so you get that like surge forward, but I think you need almost like an anticipation. Like you don't need like to anticipate back, but you do need that like that feeling that like it sinks down and then like like that force, that extra source of force is added to it suddenly, and right now it feels like something sort of knocks it. You need to sort of feel like you're getting that anticipation of build up, and then it like shoots off. But again, that's more graph editor stuff. So I like the, again, I think I would sort of play around with the timing a little bit on this frame or on this shot and maybe the one
Those
before
last
it.
two I've just been struggling with.
No, yeah, I get you. No, these are, and I like the jump over the hill. I think that's going to be a fun way to end it. What you could probably do to increase just a little bit, it may already be there, but it feels like the cars go from, okay, yeah, like this car here comes from this side of the screen and goes through. I'd almost like to see both of them come from, like instead of one car coming from the left and the other coming from the right on the screen, maybe have them both come from screen left a little bit more, and that way you kind of get this progression across your frame here.
So should I just scoot the camera over?
It may be easier to scoot the camera or to scoot the start position of one.
Okay.
May also help to play around with your, well, maybe not. But you could do this. This would be a sort of a little more experimental. You can keep the camera where it's at, widen the lens a little bit. So instead of it being like 50 millimeter or 35 or whatever, bring it out to like 20, and that way you get this big depth of field, right? No, not big. This big perspective range. Like it's gonna be really foreshortening as they pass you, and then as they get closer to the hill, you could do like a focus in on them. Like you kind of zoom in to follow them a little bit, right? You could play with that and see if it works. The only reason is if you widen the perspective at the beginning, they're going to be much smaller at the end, and you don't necessarily want that too much, right? So yeah, maybe play around with this perspective a little bit, and it'll help work with that a little bit too. But I think it's mainly just the, like I like how they come past your your camera right there, it would be nice to sort of push that a little bit more, like make that a little bit more exaggerated. So, yeah.
Yeah, those last two I've been having a hard time with. But
Yeah. No, just,
once they get fixed, then I can like, the rest will be easy.
yeah. Oh man, I didn't mean to do that. History, bring it back. Oh. Yeah, those are the ones. Okay. I'm getting a little confused on what happens in this next shot here. Yeah. Like,
That's still the hardest camera sequence. That's really what I would like. It's probably like what to do. I'm trying to show kind of that car like overshot a little too much and had to correct, which gave the other one time to hide. But it's not translating yet.
yeah, it's. I think that the. I think that the issue is that we are with. You're keeping the camera with the car that is confused, for lack of a better word. Like they don't know where the green car goes, so neither do we, and so that means that it's that's a confusing shot. I think what you I don't know if overshooting is enough to make it feel like, because I totally get this, like the car gets in here and hides, and I think you sell it pretty good with that shot. It's the idea that the red car jumps too far and that's why it doesn't know what's going on. That seems like that's kind of hard to sell. I would wonder if it would be instead like if kind of like what Kate had is like maybe it goes over a hill off to the side so its view is obscured and we stay with the green car that sort of peels off and tries to get away, and then when we cut to the next shot and the green car hides, it makes sense that the red car is coming after him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can try that or something like that.
Yeah, I think the missing element is that you want to stay with the green car. So think of it in terms of like a character or a movie, right? Like this is sort of the personification from a larger story of a character, right? If it's a car chase with John Wick, like we're kind of staying with the perspective of John Wick, not the person he's chasing, right? Like you may cut to them so you can show that they're like worried he's going to catch up with them, but really the story is being told that John is chasing this other character, not this other character is being chased by John, right? if that makes sense. And so I think what's happening is we're losing, like the last shot is definitely you're trying to make us identify with the green car that's hiding, and so I think that's where it's that's where this shot's kind of falling flat. Is this feels like I'm with the red car. Hey, I've lost the bad guy. Where is he? You know, and then suddenly we've changed perspectives again to here. So having said that, I think you could probably play up some of these cameras to accentuate that a little bit too. I like what you're doing here. It still feels like it needs some work on in the graph editor to sort of smooth some of these turns out and stuff like that, get some of the physics working. But I like the way that you get this sort of spin and they chase back after each other. But it makes me think maybe what you would do in these shots is also just kind of have your character follow, or have the camera kind of aim at the green car a little bit more, like favor it just a smidge, like not a ton, but just a little bit. And that might also help sell it a little bit better. So, yeah, but really it's this third shot here that I think kind of throws it off and makes it hard to understand. So, yeah, cool. So, Emily. While you were talking to the chat, let me go get the chat up too. Where is the chat? Okay, 1 second, so I can find my chat window. There it is. Okay. Yeah, I think that there's some like continuity issues, and the way like the car flips, but then the next shot it's not flipped. This feels like the natural end to the story, just because you can't have this shot earlier, because then you would have to have these little amoebas everywhere, or meteorites everywhere. I kind of like the idea. I assume there's going to be something on the sign that sort of says like rock slide or something like that. Yeah. So let's see. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it feels to me like you have one shot more than you need. I think if you, my thoughts would be is if you could get, like this first shot is interesting as it leads in, I guess, but I feel like it's the one that's carrying the least amount of information. The shorter ones in the beginning will either get reworked or cut entirely. Yeah, like I feel like you could almost start it with this shot, and even though it's a quote unquote chase, like this is feeling much more like playful, right? Like it's a playful chase. It's like these two cars frolicking on Mars, right? If you took that first shot out. And I think the other element to make the continuity work is that after this shot, somehow that car has to sort of roll back over and end back up on its wheels and come after this car here. I think this is working as a kind of interesting shot. I can't tell. Like, it feels like this car is getting away, and this one is not. But I don't think that the simulation is sort of selling that enough. Like, I feel like you need a pathway so we can see this car get away and continue up the mountain. And then this one is the one that gets kind of knocked back down. Which then really, if they're just playful cars frolicking on Mars, is actually just a tragic accident. They were just having fun until a rock slide. But I think that I think that makes for a more entertaining like sequence then. Yeah. So I think something to consider with these is that part of the appeal, part of the interest comes from the fact that there are two cars. Sorry, I realize that on this recording I'm doing, the audio may be really high, so I just turn that back down. There are two cars, and it's always more interesting to have two, when you have these two cars, to have them react differently, to have them do different things, right? So like this shot is way more interesting that one car flips and the other one doesn't than it would be if both cars flipped, right? Because then you're kind of like, well, like it has the same impact if it was just one car driving along and flipped then. Like it's this contrast between the two, and I think that's why it's interesting. Like both cars, getting hit by this wouldn't be as interesting as one car getting away and one car getting hit, right? I don't know if that's just sort of a natural tendency for us to want to see conflict, but that would be my thoughts. Is sort of make sure that each car is doing something different, each car is acting differently. So, yeah, cool. Got a full. Who's that? Okay, Michaela. Yeah, that last shot's working way better now. Oh, let's see. There's some more. Emily said some stuff. Okay. Yeah, I see where you're going with there, Emily. So, cool. What's that again? I know this is kind of hard to see. It's kind of dark on the screen, but I think this one's actually coming along really good. The only thing I would say in this one right now, I mean, other than some animation polish stuff, like getting those curves as clean as you can, stuff like that, adding secondary action, is this this first shot, it's almost like we're too close to the red car when it passes. So maybe push the red car back just a little bit further. Right now it feels like it's on screen for maybe 4 frames, 5 frames, something like that. And it's also where it's so fast, it's kind of hard to tell which direction it's going. So I think I would pull my camera back just a touch or scoot the car a little further away so we see it pass in the foreground but not right on top of us as much. And I think that would help a little bit in that shot. Otherwise, I really like where you're going with this. Is the all right. This is adding. So, Michaela, I know this adds more complexity than you're probably wanting to add to it, right? Something that I think would be a neat element to this in terms of adding appeal is this sign. It feels like it's a billboard right here. What I would consider doing is maybe scooting it a little closer to the camera, in between the green car and the red car. And I think it could be fun that when the red car pulls out, or when the green car pulls out to chase him, if he clips that sign and kind of knocks it over, or sort of breaks it down to one side or something, or even just smashes through it entirely. I know that's an extra effect you would have to add. Think about that as sort of a, if it's sort of everything's working out well, your renders are coming out well and everything, if you want to go back and sort of add that in as an extra layer, I think that would add some really cool appeal and personality to it. Because what it says, little clues like that carry a lot of information, right? We recognize that if that happens, green car is not a good guy chasing a bad guy, right? Green car has very little respect for the rules or the law or whatever it is that this red car broke to be worth a reward as well, right? It's got Smokey and the Bandit was a great example of that. That was a criminal being chased by police, right? But the criminal was also a pretty good guy, and the police were also kind of crooked, right? And so it adds this like depth, like this extra complexity to the personas here. So that would be something you could, it's a small idea. It's not something I'm saying you should do or that you have to do. It's more like little things like that will carry a little bit of weight if you wanted to try something like that. Even if it just like, as he spins around, he like knocks it over or something, could be an interesting element to it. And I think that you get that already because there's this, almost this like recklessness to the green car and the way it's going after the red car, whereas the red car is just kind of driving in a straight line. It's almost like the green car is like, I don't know. In this story, I still empathize with the red car, and I think that is an interesting element of how an animation communicates. So, yeah, this is coming along good though. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. It's working great. Savannah. Cool, yeah. First shot is just a possibility because I combined two of mine and I needed another one. Actually, I like it. It's a little bit more of an establishing shot. I don't know that I like the angle of it, and it's mainly because of the directions of the cars, right? Like in this first shot, the red car is traveling from the left side of the screen to the right side, and then when we cut to this next shot, it's going the other direction, right? It's going from right to left. But I think it would work if your camera was more like over here next to the green car pointing back toward the red car as it approaches, right? So you'd be establishing that shot or something like that, maybe from above or something. I definitely think it works as an establishing shot. It may just even work just to have your camera on the other side of the building, right? Looking back toward us. You got some real nice little details in here that I like. I really like how the car sort of, for lack of a better word, like gets up here, like the green car, like the way it kind of does this, sort of settles back, and then we get this like surge forward, like he's coming after him. Like, I like what that's doing. I like the sort of this shot. This shot feels like it needs just a little bit of motion to it. And it could be like, you remember, well, I don't know if you remember this from the videos or not, but you could just have like a little bit of camera motion, like the camera is just sort of moving forward at like a slow walk pace, right? Through this shot. It would be enough motion to keep it from being static, but it wouldn't be distracting, right? It's not like you're chasing these, it's just the camera is moving a little bit, right? It may also be that shot just could be sped up a little bit, like the whole thing maybe a little slower than necessary. Or you could also start with like an empty frame, and then when the two cars blow past the camera, just get like a little shake to the camera as it goes by. So there's a couple of ideas I think you could have there to, like this one just feels like it goes on a little long and needs a little bit of extra spice to it. I like, this is clearer now. Like this hit there feels clearer. I feel like after the hit, the green card does this like pop off, and I don't know if you're going for them like they're stuck together, and like the green car finally pulls away, and that's what gets the flip to happen. Is that what you're going for, or is it just a sort of a jut in the keyframe? Anyway, well, you may be typing out a response there. Like to me, that part could be, like like after the green car gets up in the air, like and then lands on the hood, the biggest part of the action is kind of over with for me, and like I would kind of want to see it like kind of get to this flip a little earlier, right? And like if they are hooked together, imagine the cause of the flip is the red car fender dragging the ground and getting stuck. Okay, yeah, so that's gonna be. So I'll be honest with you. You've made this like you've made some really hard shots to animate. Like not necessarily to stage and all of that, but more of the actual keyframing is going to have a lot of fidelity to it. And I think that that's just not quite reading yet. And it may take some extra visual cues. Like, I like the green car coming up and landing right there. And I think if you could just keep that fender down in the dirt for a little while, and then the red car sort of popping up and overcorrecting, then you may be able to sell it. Right now, it's not quite reading like they're connected together enough, and I think that's like almost like a constraint issue, right? Like it would be, in the same way that like if you have one hand to grab another hand, like just animating them near each other, it doesn't feel like they're really connected. They have to be like almost locked to each other. But I think you could have it with the green car kind of pushing down persistently throughout this whole thing and sort of driving that fender into the dirt. I think that would read a little bit better. So, and then on top of that, you added this pretty extra challenging shot with this like car rolling. I love the shot. It feels like the car is maybe skidding a little. I don't know. There's something at the beginning of it here that feels like they're not quite moving fast enough for the red car to have skidded as far as it did. So maybe like don't have it quite roll as far, especially during this little stretch right through here, I think. It seems like it goes a little further than the energy that it's rolling with would warrant on that skid right there. But then that last roll and like the settle feels great. Composition. Yeah, I can see that. Like you didn't want it to fall back behind it. You may try, like if the camera is hooked to the green car, you may try that by just having the green car curve inward a little bit, so it kind of keeps the red car still over to this side of the composition. Yeah, because you're right, it's a good spot in the composition throughout all of this. Yeah, try it out and see if it helps. But yeah, you got some good stuff going on in here. I think it needs like that last pass of polish on the animation, but you've put a lot of work into the keyframing on this, and I think it's paying off. So good job. Yeah, Talon.
Hello.
Hey. Ooh.
I remember you saying it didn't really read like a race, so I went through and added some like gates, and I worked on the continuity.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely working. Yeah, this is much better.
Awesome.
So small things. I like the rattles you got going on.
Mm-hmm.
It may almost be too much on the
Okay.
the hood. Like, but that's the cool thing about this is like once you have those curves in there, you can scale them down, right? So you can just grab those in Maya and hit R and just scale that entire curve to make it smaller, right?
Fun fact, I actually have to go back and rekey pretty much everything because I accidentally saved over my rig. So, but I have this as a reference now, so.
Well, let me show you something else. Oh, actually, I already have mine open. Something else you can that will help something feel like a rattle. So we kind of use that where we were generating that those rotation curves, but I'll show you that like it works really good if you want a really fast rattle to have it like every frame, right? And we'll show you this really quick. Let's do some rotation in here. So, yeah. So let's say you get this like, copy. So we'll set this. So you get this like rattle happening. It's kind of small though. One of the things you can do, like we've mentioned, is, and of course this is too symmetrical, you just hit R and like scale that up or scale it down, whatever works. What ends up being sort of an issue is like if it's happening every frame, we don't have to worry about ease in and ease out, right? Like between this frame on frame 15, it's going to just pop to this frame on 16 because it's every frame, right? But if I were to stretch this out, let's make it something more like this, right? Now we have to worry a little bit about that ease in and ease out. Let me scale these up a little bit more so you can see this better. Right? And so what we're getting is, you know, on frame 23, it's not just popping to frame 28, right? And what's happening is as it transitions over here, frame 27 starts to ease into 28, right? And so what we're usually seeing on a rattle is that the reason it's changing directions is because it's like something's bumping it or it's you know, smacking against something. And that's another force that's changing its direction, right? So you'll get a little bit of a better result if it's a longer transition between those curves, just to set these to linear. And like it's still probably a little too slow like that. But even if it's like over 2 or 3 frames, you won't get that ease in. You'll get that like popping a little bit more.
That makes sense.
Like, right, versus, let's set it to, I don't even know if you can tell the difference there. But that sometimes is one of the ways you can make it feel a little bit rattlier is to pop it. Or to just make those keyframes happen a little closer together, because if they're multiple keys apart, it feels more like it's waving side to side and easing in before it changes directions. And I think you want it to feel like it pops back and forth. So I kind of noticed that on like your hood. It's like, well, you're getting a little bit of some pops in there. I think that it's almost too much rotation on that, and maybe I would make a little bit more of like a noisy curve for that. But I think it's I think it's a little too noisy across the board though. Like if you had like a really small noise on everything, I think it would look cool, and then you could ramp it up on certain spots, right?
Gotcha.
Like if you wanted it to look like they're revving their engine, then maybe the hood would shake just a little bit more in these little like pulses. And I think that is one of the things that would help with that shot. Is this is usually in a race scene, this is the like them trying to intimidate each other shot, right? Like they're sitting next to each other, and like you know, it's for car junkies to kind of get their their fix of the powerful engines, like, oh, this is going to be a great race. It's got that, like, that's kind of what that shot is kind of feeding into. And right now it just kind of, you need a little bit more of that, like, intimidation or showboating that's happening between the two.
Gotcha.
Other than that and a little bit of curve work, I think this is working pretty well. Like when they go around this curve here, especially the green car, you can see like the point where it like sort of hits a corner a little hard right there. And just try to get some of that banking in there, some of that like feeling like of the force changing directions. But I think in terms of like your staging and your blocking phase, this is looking pretty good. So
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, good job.
Thanks.
Okay, Zach. Yeah. I think that's definitely reading better. Than what we were having before. I think this shot here, I like this, you get this hit, you get this spin out, and then we cut to the green car spinning out. I'd like to be able to see that red car drive away a little longer. Right, and so I would almost say, like, could you just scoot the camera down, scoot the camera in this direction a little further, so what we're actually watching is this framing, and we're able to see the red car continue to kind of drive away. In terms of animation, I think you need to, so I know we've kind of talked about this, but in Maya, like you have the beginning of the shot, the end of the shot. Like let's say your shot is this 140 frames, right? And I got my first frame on there and my last frame on there. Right? We start to see that accelerate from stopped. And so really it's this fast part in the middle you're wanting to catch. And not this like accelerate in at the beginning. And so one of the things you just kind of need to do is go in there at the beginning and ending of each of those shots and make sure you're set to linear, or adjust your frame range to where we're only looking at the middle section of that, right?
Okay.
So it trims off that that part in the middle where they're just getting started and where they're stopping. And so I noticed that in a few shots. And I think just as long as when you get in there to your splining, you make sure that you're not easing in at the beginning and ends of those shots. I think would help. And I think that and adjusting the staging of that last shot is the only real thing I noticed. I love this first shot. You may try easing in your camera right at the end here, because it feels like the camera kind of hits a wall and just stops all of a sudden. And so that would be something like the cameraman would kind of slow to a stop as they're following, even if it's on a dolly or something.
Okay.
Small note, let's see. So in this shot, I like it. The only thing, like, the red car almost disappears here. And, like, it almost goes all the way off frame. And so I don't know if I would have it pull back quite that far to ease in. And then I think, you want to get that, like, that impact, like that clunk when he hits as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, otherwise, this is looking good. Okay, did I skip anybody? Awesome. Give yourselves a hand. Yay! Okay. Katie gave you a hand. So, and I'm assuming everybody at home is clapping with their mics off. So, oh, you got the little clap emojis. There's more emojis now. Did y'all notice? Like we got like a ta-da emojis. We got all sorts of stuff. I guess they're not emojis. They're reacts. My bad. Reacts. How y'all feeling?
I don't
About
know
the-
how to animate.
Huh?
Mood. He said, I don't know how to animate, and I said mood.
Yeah, you know how to animate. So,
I had a really simple time putting this together the first time, and all of it's going really well. And then you were like, "Oh, to make it better, change this one simple thing," and now I'm just completely lost.
okay. Can I help in any way?
I don't know how do I make it better?
How do you make it better?
I'm sorry, I'm not being very articulate right now. I'm running on a fraction of the normal amount of sleep I usually get.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that actually, so I'll be honest, I was worried. Like I woke up this morning and I was like, crap, they will remember that there's something due today, right? And I knew it always happens. A few people were like, oh yeah, I forgot, and then they put it in. I recognized that. I was worried that we wouldn't be this far along. So the fact that we're this far along, I'm feeling cautiously okay about it. Right? I think that it's still a decent amount of work to get through. Chris, what you showed last time wasn't bad. Like I think that what is the specific thing that you're struggling with?
You said to make the long shot where they're racing along next to each other like longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did that whole talk about like physics and stuff. And I'm trying to make it longer and also look like it's more physical, and I'm just not anything.
Do you want to share your screen and talk about it, or is it just not is it not satisfying to you? Like the animation you're seeing just doesn't feel right to you. Is it that?
I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm also really bad at telling what's good or bad about something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I can share my screen if you want me to.
It's completely up to you. I can give you some feedback on it, but I don't want to make it worse if the feedback is going to make it worse right now, and you're just really just needing to fight through it.
Okay. I don't know. My brain is half asleep. Should I share my screen?
Yeah, share your screen. I want to see where it's at. Okay.
Is it sharing?
Yes.
It kind of looks like the car is doing this instead of going
Yeah,
constantly propelling itself.
it's kind of skipping just a little bit, but it does feel like the front car kind of does this like lunge forward right there. So I believe I know one of the issues you may be running into.
Okay.
So try this and see if it helps. Apply so you're doing this without textures, I'm sure, like for optimized reasons, so it'll play back smoother and stuff like that. Try temporarily adding a checkerboard texture to your ground. So here's something that happens on like a or you can you can duplicate it or do whatever you want to. Or if you wanted to add the texture back to it. What will sometimes happen is you have a moving camera, you have two moving cars, right? And then you have this backdrop, which is the ground, right? And what ends up happening is it's hard, unless you have something for your eye to kind of track, it's hard to see what is a camera motion and what is an object motion until you have something for your eye to track. Try playing it on that and see if that works better for you.
Okay.
So to me, like, it's that little surge that happens right there, like that timing may not be working out, but that front car kind of surges forward after it sort of slides to the side, and it surges forward, but then it kind of stops the surge. It's almost like it hits something. And I think that if anything, I would have it sort of accelerate, like they both kind of accelerate right there, and like it feels like they accelerate and then hit the brakes again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think. I get what you mean.
Yeah. So, but I think what may help temporarily, this backdrop texture will let you track what is a camera motion and what is a car motion, and that might end up helping a little bit, right? Having said this, like you had me expecting something way worse than this, so so don't be sweating it too much. Just keep fighting with it. Okay, I'm gonna take kind of control over again just for a second, and give you all a couple of tricks. Yes, I want to steal your screen share. So I'm going to share my screen. And who wants to volunteer their piece so I can experiment on it? Anybody?
You're welcome to do it with mine.
Okay, Kate. That was Kate, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to show you something that will help, and Chris, this may apply to you as well. Is that like when you've animated for a long time, it's very easy to start just getting snow blindness to it. One of the tricks, and I've shown this in a few other classes, is you want to be able to see it with some fresh eyes. So if you open it in VLC, go to Tools, Effects and Filters, Video Effects, and then it's under this Geometry tab. You have the option to transform this and flip it horizontally. And so, Kate, this is going to be most eye-opening for you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's the mirrored version of the shot, or of the entire piece, right? This used to be something that was harder to do. Like I literally kept a mirror in my office that I could hold up to my screen so I could watch my animation mirrored. This is much easier to see it this way. You could also always take it into Premiere and do it, but watching it this way, like play blast it out, take it into VLC and flip it, will let you see stuff sort of in the same way that somebody who's never watched it before would see it. Right, you'll see like the little weird hitches in it. You'll see the things that maybe not as obvious to you anymore. So, Chris, that may help. Like, but one of the things I would probably encourage you to do is if it feels like you're like beating your face against this one piece over and over again, and you just can't make it any better, just save it and move on to something else. Like, sometimes it really does help just to switch gears, right? This is sort of my my go-to for a lot of stuff. Like if I'm fighting with something in terms of writing, like this will work in your English paper too, right? You're writing a section in your English paper, you get to a part where you're just like, why can't I get past this part? Pretend like you did, right? Write blah, and then go to the next paragraph and start writing the next part you feel like you understand, right? What this will do is sort of extra pressure to solve a problem makes it less likely that we will be able to solve that problem, right? Problem solving is not something that you increase your efficiency at by adding more pressure or emphasis on it, right? If I'm trying to solve a math problem, like thinking at it as hard as I can is not going to improve it. What actually usually works the best is stepping away from it and letting my mind kind of settle so I can attack it again with a little bit of a fresh brain. This is actually, there's some scientific validity to this. This isn't just like, take 5 deep breaths and everything will be okay. It's the way your brain works. There's 2 different types. There's 2 different ways that your brain solves problems, and a lot of people will call that, your left brain and your right brain. And I think that that's a little inaccurate, but it is like your analytical brain and your creative brain. But let's say your right brain is the part that wants to actively solve it. Like you can solve it by staring at it, and eventually you'll solve that puzzle. Your left brain is the part of your brain that is activated in the shower or is activated when you're taking a walk, and it's really quiet, while the other, your right brain is really loud. And so if your right brain is really loud, it's screaming at you, being like, change this, now do this, change that. And your left brain already knows the answer to the problem. You just can't hear it over your right brain. And so when people say my best ideas come to me in the shower, they're not joking. What happened is they relaxed enough for their right brain to shut up, and then their left brain already had the answer ready to go. So stepping away from the problem kind of lets your brain kind of rebalance. But literally, taking a walk helps too. And this is not criticism, Chris, but definitely sleep helps too. Yeah, no, you don't want to, but you should. You should.
No, but I do want to sleep. I just don't. I was up until 6 a.m. writing a paper about Cyrano de Bergerac.
That's cool, but yeah, I mean, I can't criticize. I was the same way. When I was in college, I stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning every night because I thought that's when I got my best work done, and it probably was at the time. But I think that's something you listen to, right? If that means that you're going to get your best work done at 6 o'clock in the morning, then don't even try right now. As soon as class is over, go take a nap and get back up at 6 o'clock in the morning and fix it. Or 2 o'clock in the morning. Don't fight it, if that makes sense. You're not going to. This works a lot with people doing overtime as well, and it's one of the reasons overtime is not very productive. People think that if you work 12 hours instead of 8, then you're going to get 1.5 much work, or 1.5 as much work done, right? And you don't. It's not like you get an extra 50%. You get an extra 30% or something. If you want the most effective production, you work 8 hours, you go home, you sleep, and you come back and you work 8 more hours. And that's actually why good studios try to avoid crunch as much as possible, because when you're overstressed and when you're not in your prime working brain, you have a tendency to make more mistakes. You have a tendency to have not as good of judgment on certain things, and just not be as creative. So yeah, so I get you. Don't force it. Take a nap. A Cyrano de Bergerac nap. So I am. I'm encouraged and nervous all at the same time. More nervous by the absences of the people who aren't here or didn't make it in today. Nathan, I got you. Michaela, I got you. Okay. So it's really only 5 people who didn't make it in, but in a class of 16, that's still quite a bit. And it's not like this is not me criticizing. This is not me being we have an absence epidemic. What it actually is me concerned about people getting overtaxed this semester, getting overworked and starting to phase out, right? So I think we're on track, but I do think that I think we all have to kind of make sure that we are, it's a harder semester than usual, so we have to put in more effort than usual. And I know that just sucks, right? Like that's like what the hell, 2020, right? But try to stick with me and keep putting, like one of the reasons I do these weekly check-ins is because it's pretty much proven in a lot of online environments that it's very easy for people to sort of compartmentalize and end up neglecting one or more classes, and I see that happening a little bit in this class and in other classes, and that like I didn't have any time to work on 3D animation this week. I only had time to work on this class, right? And this week is the week I'm going to work on everything for 3D animation. And I get that happens, but as much as you can divvy a little bit of it out each week to all of your classes, I think the less you're going to feel like I feel like people who did that this week is going to be a hard week for you, right? You got a lot of stuff to catch up on, and I'm trying to avoid that as much as I can by having you make incremental progress each week, right? But I feel like we're making some progress. Just keep at it, keep working at it. So what I'd like to do, how much time do we have left in this class? We got about 20 minutes, 30 minutes? I think. So it's 2:35 that this one ends? Yeah.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Okay. So I do think that it's probably important. Let me go ahead and share my screen for you to be able to make sure we have a good video editing solution. And I've mentioned it several times, but just in case you haven't tried this yet, I'm going to do a quick crash course. Becky Cloonan is an amazing comic book artist too, just in case you're wondering. Let's see. There is. What am I looking for? Oh, DaVinci Resolve. Okay, DaVinci Resolve 16 is what we're looking for. It's by Black Magic Design. We'll open this up. So they make this kind of hard for you and kind of easy at the same time, because I looked forever for the download button on this thing. Like I scrolled up and down everywhere. I'm like, where is this thing? You get down here to the bottom and it's right there. You can also, up here at the very top, it's kind of hidden in this terrible image as well. It's like, oh, you hid it in this very busy image that I couldn't find. But if we go down here to the bottom, it's one of the very last things. So this is something that if you're looking to spend $300, the full studio version is worth it, but you don't have to. Right now, all we need is this one. I'm just going to go ahead and download the Windows version. I'm sure that'll work. Register and download. And I'm going to go ahead and put this here. Doing it twice. Okay. So it is kind of big. It's 1.5 GB. But this is downloading super fast. That is actually kind of insanely fast right now. I just downloaded 1 GB in like 15 seconds. 1.5 GB. So show in the folder. I'm going to extract this. Okay. And we'll install it. I'll just use everything normal here, whatever they recommend. So this works like a lot like Premiere. So if you've used Premiere, it's a great alternative to it, and the cool part is it's completely free. If you haven't used Premiere and not super familiar with it, it's really, they're not super hard to learn, but I still wanted to sort of walk you through this and show you how it works. Pretty exciting, isn't it? Watch it go.
I mean, it just reminds me of the days when I had dial-up internet and it was like downloading 10 kilobytes was like, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the days of the internet where it's like you Google your favorite band and it brings up that picture of it and it like slowly loads the picture like one line at a time or whatever. Like it's like every image was like that. Like, and I'm just like dumbfounded. So I think it finished installing. Resolve. Did that work? Yes. Okay. I'm going to skip the tour because that's what I'm here for. Skip and start right now. Allow access. Please. So I'm going to pull from some images that I just already have. Yes, allow access. I just have some images up on the network. ETSU E3 that I'm just going to pull out of my faculty folder. So very much like Premiere, except for these buttons down through here, which are a little different, right? So we can go to media, and this is how you can sort of edit a single video, how you can like look at single videos and like trim it up, do certain things to it. This is where we're going to be a little bit more like Premiere, where you're editing these together. So I'm going to right click in here and say import media, and I'll go get something off the ETSU E3 server, DSGM faculty, Marlowe. Let's do Greg in class. So I know I have a bimbot render in here somewhere. Apparently not in there. There he is, right? So the difference in this and Premiere is you'll be used to Premiere where you select the first one and there's a little checkbox here that says import image sequence. It doesn't do that. Like what we have to do is select the first one, go to the final one, hold shift and select that and hit open. And it's going to pull it in as a video anyway, right? So the cool thing about this, if I right click, I think I can go to clip attributes. You'll see that my frame rate is 24 frames per second, right? Which is what I want it to be. In the past, we'd have to do that, modify, interpret footage, 24 frames a second. This is just working, right? This is going to where I want it to be. Now, if you're doing something for video, you do have to convert it to 29.97 or 30. But since we're using something straight out of Maya, it's going to do 24. So I can drag this, drop it in here, and now I have my video sequence here. Now it's an EXR sequence, it's pulling it from the network, so it's going to be a little slow to play at first. Right? The cool thing about this looks a little different. We got these two things here instead of one. And what this is allowing us to do is sort of get in here close and scrub. The other thing is like grabbing this little scrub, this like playhead. That's not how you move it in the bottom half. It kind of is how you move it in the top half. How you move it in this bottom section here is you just grab the clip and you can kind of, well, I said that, now it's not moving at all. Apparently I'm wrong. You do kind of grab the playhead and drag the clip back and forth, right? So what we're seeing here is sort of a scaled back version of our entire edit. And what we're seeing down here is just the individual clip. Now I can import more media. Let's go to a different file here. Did I ever render Bob and Arm? Did not. Benbot tune. Let's do. Marty made it better. Yeah. So this is me doing a tune render test. Open. And I can drag that down here, or I can drag it up here for the edit, right? And so now what I get is this ability to sort of scroll through both of them, right? It's funny, it's actually the same animation. It's just two different renders of it. So there's some stuff I can do in here, like transitions if I needed to, titles, effects, like if I want to add Gaussian blur and stuff. All of that is in here in this cut section, or this edit section. These will both kind of work very similar to each other. As you'll see what I have in here, this is almost exactly like what you're used to seeing in Premiere, right, is this edit section. Now, Fusion is different entirely. If I click on Fusion, it's going to give me this. I don't know how many options I actually get in Fusion, but Fusion is actually very similar to After Effects or Nuke. And what we get is a bunch of node-based effects that we could apply in here. And so it's kind of like it has After Effects built into it. The only problem was the free version doesn't really have very much that you can do in Fusion. The next tab is color. So with all of this, I can do some color correct on whole sections of it. Right? If I want to click in here and do color correct on this whole section, I just have these built-in color tools that allow me to just sort of color grade whole sections of this. Why is it alpha channeling that? Let me go back. I don't know why it's alpha channeling it. I don't want it to. I'm going to alpha mode none. Okay, there we go. That should work better. Yeah. And so like we can do all this color correct like right here in this viewport. Fairlight is more of a sound edit pass that you can do on it. And then the final one is deliver. So for most of you, what you're probably going to do is go straight from cut or edit to deliver. And then from deliver, we have all of our settings here. And so I could say browse. Let's go ahead and put this on my desktop. We'll call this test, save. And we can change a lot of our stuff in here, right? So if I wanted to go to MP4, it's got the H.264 codec. It's like we're ready to go. You also just have a H.264 master option right there, right? It's going to QuickTime. You can still do MP4 if you'd rather. And then whenever we are ready, we say add to render queue, puts it up here, and we just hit start render. And it will compress all of this out. Give it a second. I think it's taking it a little while to compress because it's pulling those from the network. Okay, completed. That means on my desktop, this is what I had. So, it's a really nice solution to something if you don't want to use Premiere, if you don't have Premiere. This is like pretty much just as powerful. It's almost more powerful because it has this really nice color correct tools just built into it. So I would encourage you to, if you're not using Premiere, you don't already have your file all set up in Premiere, to go ahead and set it up and use Resolve. I wanted to make sure everybody sort of had that so you could start doing your edits, because as you're starting to get your renders done, really what you have now, you're just going to start replacing those with your render, right? And if you are re-editing this every time, you're kind of missing out on some of the efficiency of this, right? To have this already set up as a file where the edit is cut together and you can just swap in and out files is going to be a big time saver. So, I know that was the crash course on a program that we could probably spend an entire course on. So questions on that? Anything you're thrown off by? Okay.
Do you have to use Resolve?
Do what?
Do you have to use Resolve?
No. Resolve is just if you don't have access to Premiere, or you don't want to use Premiere or whatever. I'm trying to give people, because we have so many Adobe issues, I'm trying to give people alternatives to using that. I'm slowly converting over to Resolve, but I have Adobe too, so it's not. I don't have that same incentive to hurry it up. But it's a good program if you're looking for an alternative. So. Other questions about the project? We have one more class that we are definitely meeting in, where I have some lectures set up to show you how to get your scene ready for rendering, and kind of to go over some last few questions with you that you may have as you're finishing this up. But otherwise, is there anything you have for me? Any questions? Any concerns? Okay, so what I'm going to say, aim at doing what you can this week, right? Aim at getting as much of this done as you can. That way you can take next week off, right? And just be ready to go when we come back on the following Wednesday. So again, I have the schedule here. Don't I? Did. There we go. We are right here. Obviously, if you're doing the self-imposed deadline, it's right there. We have Monday and Tuesday off of next week. So when we come back, it would be Wednesday, and that's where we're going to check out the finals. That's also when I am going to, I don't know, at some point recognize that the next project we're going into, this the Polygon film, which is a much longer project, is it is a group project, right? Everybody's mic is on mute, but I'm confident that there was some groans about that fact.
What are the sizes of the groups?
There you go.
Sorry, I unmuted my microphone for you, Greg.
Thank you. So that's one of the things I'm wanting to go over is I'm going to pick the groups with your input, right? What I've noticed before, I've watched friendships end in my class because I let them pick their own group, right? What you can go into any group project with a 100% assurity of is you're going to get pissed off at somebody in your group, right? And so you have to get, but that's true with everything. If you go into a job at a AAA game studio making your dream job, you're going to get pissed off at somebody on your team because they're going to drop their end of the bargain. They're going to not come through in the way you needed them to. They're going to be overly critical. Like there's lots of things that can happen. And what I've realized is when I left it completely open and let people pick their own groups, everybody picked a group that they like to hang out with, but it did not result in the best working environment, right? What I'd like to do, and what I think is going to work best for this, is a group of 2, but I'd like to have sort of a conversation about that, so it's really just pairs. I may opt for groups of 3, if you all want to. The only reason I was thinking of pairs is because we are like sort of all scattered to the wind. It makes it a little bit easier to communicate remotely with one person than it does with 3 or with 2 extra people. So, but how I usually have you all do that is I have a form I have you fill out, and in there I ask, and it's a confidential form that nobody else sees it except me, right? Sees the results except me. In there I do ask, who are some people in the class you want to work with? And who are some people in the class you would rather not work with? And that's like I've been really surprised by the results of those, right? Because people that I think would make great partners have been like, nope, I don't want to work with those people. people who I thought were best friends, one of them was like, I want to be in a group with my best friend. And the other person was like, please don't put me in a group with my best friend. And I get to be the bad guy then, right? I get to not watch a friendship go through trials for that reason. But I take all of those suggestions into account. It's just not the only way I make my decision, right? What I usually want to do is I want to make sure a team is balanced, and that, for example, if you are going to need to do a little bit of rigging throughout this, that at least one person on each team at least doesn't hate rigging, right? Because if you have everybody on your team hates rigging, then your project is not going to come out as good because the rigging is not going to be as solid, right? If you have at least one person who is okay with rigging and kind of enjoys it a little bit, then that person can be the rigging artist for your team or handle some of the rigging work, while somebody else is handling like concept art and another person is handling some modeling, right? I've tried to balance this project as best as I can to where if you have to do anything other than animating, layout, and like story development for it, I already have a ready pipeline for you to do that. And I'm going to walk you through those parts of it, which is mainly the rigging part, right? But still, I want to make sure that it's a balanced team and not just like 3 of the same people on a team together. Does that make sense? So if you are like, oh, but I really do want to be on a team with another person in this class, I am going to take that into consideration pretty seriously, and I usually get people in teams. You can come in. You're welcome to come in and work. And I usually do get people on teams that they're pretty happy with. There have been a few times when somebody has said, I don't want to be on a team with this person, but because of the other elements within the decision-making process, I still think it would be a really good idea for them to work together. I've usually pulled those people aside and said, hey, here's the reason I think you should consider it, and it's worked out pretty well. So, trust me on it. I'm not gonna like. I want to make sure that everybody's on a team that has the most chances for success. Recognize that any team project is going to have its ups and downs. The reason we do this, the reason all teachers are always putting you in groups, is because that doesn't change, right? Like once you get into the professional industry, like that's kind of part of the reason we do it, is so you can learn how to meet those challenges and still get stuff done, right? But I think it'll be helpful for us in this project, because there's going to be sections of this project that you are not going to want to do, and I want to have somebody on your team who does want to do that part of it, right? But we'll talk more about that later. Let's get through this project first. What I would say, put what you got into it, like try to get through it. Try to get it done by Friday. I'm still showing up in the Zoom meetings on Fridays. Usually it's pretty quiet in there. Nobody shows up. If nobody shows up after 30, 45 minutes, I usually hop out. If you do show up and I'm not there, I'm probably just running 5 or 10 minutes late. Just give me a minute and I'll be there eventually. But swing by this Friday if you have questions, if you need any last minute help with it, and just keep putting the time into it. I think we can get this done. And I don't know if you all have been into the building. We have like 4 giant monitors out in the hallway now, and they are playing previous semester's work, right? Like that's going to happen this time too. Like the stuff that you turn in for this will eventually end up on those monitors. We're really trying to just get a circulation of that stuff going through. And I really like when I can walk by those monitors and see the stuff from my previous classes and be like, that turned out pretty good, right? But you'll notice it like once you're back in the building. It's also sometimes cringy to walk by those monitors and be like, ugh, like I remember that piece and that didn't come out so well. Like we want to get your pieces up to that point to where it's the piece that you're excited to walk by that monitor and see it, right? Recognize that whatever you turn in on Wednesday though is still open for revision. So get it as close as you can. And we will keep working on it. We'll keep hammering on it throughout the semester. If a render doesn't come out the way you want it to, I would really like this car piece to turn into a portfolio piece for you. So, okay, last questions, comments, concerns?
I also had a quick question. So I know that, yeah, since we have the break now on Monday and Tuesday, if there are any other like last minute things, will we be able to like contact you in some way?
You can. I can't promise how quickly I'll reply. I'm doing my best to take a little bit of a break then too. But I'm never that far away from something with internet access. So if it's a quick question, I'll probably just answer it on my phone pretty quickly. If you can give me enough heads up, I can always still run into the office and meet with you, during one of those days too. There will probably be at least one of those days, and I'm not sure when, during that 4-day break, which I'm just going to try to stay away from all screens that are not playing me like entertaining movies, right? So I may not even see the email on that day, whichever day it is. It'll probably be like Monday-ish, I don't know. But yeah, contact me anyway. I'll do my best to get back to you in a reasonable amount of time, even if it is during the break. So.
Cool. Well, I'm hoping it won't have to come to that, but
yeah,
just
I hope everything goes
thinking about
smoothly. Well, my hope is that you all don't have to work that entire break. I would prefer it if you can get it done, or at least get it to a point where you feel comfortable with it. The last thing I'll say, if you get to a point and you're like, this is just not going to get rendered in time, or I'm going to have to spend my entire break rendering this, I would rather you turn in a really nice play blast. I will say that so far this scene is not play blasting really nice, right? Like, I think to do that you would have to like light it for hardware 2.0, get you some shadows going on in there, and play blast it that way. But I'm not going to be overly critical of the rendering, and so if you need to render at like 720, the rendering is part of the production, and eventually something we'll be having to bring up. But that's always something we can do as a revision as we go along. If you feel like you're having to decide between putting that extra level of polish on the animation or starting to render, I would rather see the extra level of polish on the animation. Because if you render it and it's not polished, you're just going to have to render it again anyway. So that's what I would say is, prioritize like having the highest quality animation you can done, presented in a way that we can understand it. It may be that you do a nice play blast and then you do a 540 render or something like that that's really low or that's really small, so we can see what the lighting looks like. So yeah, just try that out. Please don't interpret that as Marlo said we didn't have to render. It's more like if you have to decide where you're going to prioritize your efforts, make sure this is an animation class. Focus the most on that. So, all right. Any other questions, comments? How's y'all's weekend?
It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
Taylor had a party, I think. She celebrated. Yay. All right.
I got to other than completely losing all my frames for this, I had a pretty good weekend.
Oh, okay. Good deal.
I founded a new country.
You found it, or you founded it?
Founded.
Oh, okay. That's
Or
cool.
helped found.
I was like, tell me about this secret country we didn't know about. That's cool. I may, we'll see after November. I may
Are you
check into it.
Are you letting people in?
Yeah, exactly. What is the admissions process, Chris? I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. If you have any more questions, feel free to hang around. I'll upload this video to YouTube for what it's worth. But yeah, have a great class, or have a great day.
You
You
too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.